Hey guys, how's it going today?
Hey, how you doing?
Fantastic. How are you?
I am great. I'm excited about this. It's always fun when it's more than two of us. We get used to the podcast
Yes.
talking back and forth, but when there are three, it's a whole different ball game, right?
It's
Oh my
completely
gosh.
different. Yes.
And that's a great idiom, a whole different ball game,
I
right? To
love that
describe
one.
something that's totally different. We use so many sports idioms.
We really
There are
do.
so many sports idioms. I know we've done quite a few episodes on them because we use so many of them and they're so
Yes.
handy at
Yeah.
work and with friends all the time. But yeah, the main thing I feel like that's so beneficial about this, you guys, is you get a chance to speak one-on-one or hear a podcast with one, maybe two hosts, but you can't find practice with multiple speakers. Having just natural, normal conversations, interrupting each other, talking over each other, and we want you guys to have that practice so that you can be confident and successful when you're chatting in a group, right, guys?
Yeah, it's so true.
Yeah. I mean, like we need this in the real world, right? But then also, if you're taking an English test like IELTS that has a
Mm,
listening portion, sections 1 and 3, multiple speakers, right? Usually
mm.
it is just two, but sometimes it's three, right? And like listening and speaking, these skills are connected, right? So all
Yes.
of this is also going to help speaking, I would imagine.
Yeah.
Yes,
And it's
exactly.
weird that it's hard to find ESL content, learning English content with more than two people. You can find a lot of single hosts, a lot of
Yeah.
two hosts, but there's very little content out there with more than two people, guys. So this is
Totally.
unique. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And we cover just like
completely.
regular topics that natives talk about all the time, right?
Yeah.
Parenting, role models, family relationships,
Yeah.
topics you hear on the IELTS exam, and also that you're going to hear in conversations in your daily life. And you need to be ready for those.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Good stuff. Good
totally.
stuff.
So
So,
guys, if
yeah.
you like this conversation and you think, wow, these lessons would really help me, you could have audio lessons like this every Wednesday emailed directly to you with a quiz, with vocab, with transcripts. Guys, subscribe today, allearsenglish.com/fast. All right, Aubrey, what are we talking about today? This is
So,
a crazy topic.
This is a
this
great
is
topic.
a really fun one. We're going to talk about like in TV and movies, on books. You'll hear you're turning into your mother. Someone will say, and it's usually not a nice thing to say to someone, right? The other person usually gets mad or defensive.
Totally.
Sure.
So I want to know, what if someone said this to you? How would you feel and why? Right? What do you think, Jessica? I know a little bit about your mom. I know that that probably wouldn't be a bad thing for you.
It depends on the context. If it's, if I am exhibiting a behavior that I want to exhibit, right? And
Mhm.
then somebody's like, man, you remind me of your mom. For example, being very organized and making lists. My mom does that all the time. So do I. And so I'm like, yeah, this is great. This is awesome. But there's other behaviors that sometimes I don't want to exhibit. And then if James, right, if he's like, you're being like grandma right now.
Oh my
I'm
God, that's
like,
hilarious. Even your son says it. That's great. I love that.
Well, and you
what
made
about
a
you
good point
guys?
that phrase that you're turning into your mother, right? It's different to be like, oh, you remind me of your mom right now with some positive quality, but you're turning
Totally.
into your mother
Yes, and
is
I
always
feel like
negative.
that's something that a partner would say to you, right? It's really
Right.
bad because your partner knows your mother, right?
Yeah.
And then, oh no, like you are becoming your mother. Ah, gosh.
I think that's like where I primarily hear or see this comment is like
Yes.
in movies and TV shows when it's like husbands and wives or partners or whatever.
Yes.
And exactly, Lindsay, like one partner's like mad, with the other person's like, you're just like your mother right now. And it's like such an insult in these situations. But I don't know, like, shouldn't it be more complimentary? Shouldn't we like love our mothers more than that?
I've been getting this lately in my home because
Really?
my mom has this thing where she gasps all the time, even for the littlest thing. And
What?
lately,
Give me an
I don't know,
example.
like she'll think of something, an idea, like, or like something will happen and it'll startle her. Like, not even usually gasps are saved for very dramatic situations, right? Like, oh my gosh, a glass broke, but she does it all the time. And I've started doing it all the time. So my partner
Oh
is
my
now
God.
saying, you're doing that like your mother does all the time.
I do that with when we're driving, I'll gasp about just like an email, I'll be like, and my husband will think that something, he's like, what? Like, cause he's panic driving mode. And he's like, you can't gasp loud like that for things that aren't important.
You can't, because it sends people into panic mode, right?
Totally.
It's like a fight or flight thing, and it's not good. It's not safe, but I have been doing it.
My mom totally does that as well. Like, she gets startled so easily. Like watching a movie is a great example. We'll be watching a movie, and like, if there is a hint of blood, like just a tiny amount, or like anything that is slightly surprising or scary, then my mom is like, it's like a huge like, oh my. And then there's always like,
isn't it funny how these things kick in later in life? Like, we think we're going to be so different from our mothers, and in some ways we are, but then somewhere in our 30s or 40s, like the mother comes in and she's there. She's just been in our personality waiting to come out.
Oh, that's so funny.
Did your guys' mom do the thing when you're driving where if she has to brake or something happens, she like throws her arm in front of you?
I do that.
I do that too now.
Oh, yeah.
And I remember hating it when I was a kid.
Me too.
And now I do.
It was so annoying. I'm like, I'm fine. I'm not going anywhere.
Have a
I'm
seatbelt
wearing
on, Mom.
I know. And especially if you're like older than 6 years old or whatever. Like,
oh yeah.
My mom would still do that today, honestly, if we're driving, because it's just she can't get rid of that instinct. Yeah, exactly.
Defending her children. Yeah, protecting.
No, but I totally do that, and I could see James rolling his eyes. I'm like, well, yep, that's what happens.
So I am curious about some like generational differences, like if there are things that you feel like are hard about your parents, or maybe their attitudes, but you can recognize that it's sort of not their fault because they were raised in a different generation, right? What do you guys think?
Oh yeah, I could say for sure. In my mom's case, her mom went through the Great Depression.
Yeah.
Right. So, and they were kind of like, they were poor in like a wealthy neighborhood, but a very poor family on the block in a wealthier neighborhood. So like, she was always kind of like the poor kid. And so that kind of has carried over and created like a little bit of a sense of anxiety in some ways. And you could totally see that, but it wasn't her fault. It's what she saw in her mom and like the circumstances that they grew up in. It's really interesting.
So like, how does that manifest in her behavior?
I think she's just a little anxious sometimes. Like, she does have a little bit of a scarcity mindset around money sometimes, somewhat.
Yeah.
And she's just in general a little anxious, but she's great. She's got a high level of empathy. So I love her to death, of course.
Yeah. What you were saying about your mom sort of getting things from her mom, this isn't so much generational, but I definitely feel like there were qualities that my grandma had where she just was a very sometimes sort of critical. She just wanted things to be a certain way, and it was very important to her to communicate that to you, and it wasn't always in the nicest way. And my mom does that too. Sometimes she sees it in herself and she tries not to. She'll immediately recognize, I think, like, oh, my mom did this and I don't want, but it's that nature, that nurture where she was raised with, that's what she's used to. And it's hard to fight those instincts.
Yeah. And there's certain expectations as far as like manners and politeness and like sort of how you behave in society that like our moms and their generation were different, like higher expectations, like how you set the table. Like my mom was so strict on like, where the napkin goes and you fold it. And this is where the fork and the glass, like there was like a table setting. And like, I've never taught James that, like, that doesn't seem like an important skill to me.
We're like, if you're using a fork, we're winning.
Yeah. Right.
Or a napkin for that matter.
Right? That's a bonus.
I know, still, I'm like, James, stop grabbing the broccoli with your fingers. Like, there's a fork right there. And he's just like picking up the, little broccoli tray.
Finger food.
Yeah, I know what you're saying though. Definitely, like my mom has a thing where she'll get dressed up more than I would normally. Or if we go out for dinner, she'll go put on makeup and get herself ready. Whereas that's not a thing I would really consider doing to go out for dinner with my parents in a small town,
That's true. My mom still like curls her hair every morning. And like, it's like so put together.
Right. There's an
you guys saw her in the business course. Like she is a put together little lady.
She had a business suit going on. Yes.
All the time.
Very pretty.
I just wear a sweatshirt.
I wonder though, why does no one say you're acting like your dad right now? You're acting like your father, right? Why is that?
Well, do they say
Do
that
they-
to men, to boys?
That's what I was gonna say.
Good question. I don't know. Do they? I
I
mean,
don't feel like I hear that really on TV or anything.
I don't
Oh,
hear
you're
that.
acting like your dad. I don't know. That's
Well, Aubrey, have you ever said that to Cole?
that he's acting like his dad. I
Yeah.
don't think so. There are some times where he does this thing where he likes to scare us. He'll like hide around the corner if he knows you're coming in and just be
I
like,
love
"Wah,"
doing
and I
that.
scream. And his
Hilarious.
dad does that. He grew up
That's
with his
funny.
dad doing it all the time.
interesting.
So
Yeah.
I feel like there have been times where I'll be like, "You're just like your dad," or he'll tell silly, corny dad jokes. And I'm like,
Right.
"You're just like your dad."
Sure. So
There's
maybe it
that
does
too.
happen sometimes, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I feel like this is another example of like gender inequality almost,
Kind
because
of,
it's like
yeah.
we have this connotation, and it is a much more common thing to hear and to say,
Yep.
to have this be a negative. You're just like your mother right now.
Exactly.
But like Lindsay, like that's a very good point.
yeah.
We don't
Yeah.
hear people saying that regarding like the males in
No.
the generations or whatever. Oh my God, that's so unfair. I
Fascinating.
never thought about that
No,
before.
it's the same kind of thing where like if a man is bossy, it's a positive trait. If
Oh,
a
yeah.
woman is bossy, forget it. That's
Oh, yeah.
My gosh, we saw
Oh,
that in
yeah.
like all the elections and stuff, right? Like the candidates who
Yes.
were women are like judged by totally different standards than
Oh,
the
yeah.
male candidates.
100%. Yeah.
Ooh, we have some work to do on gender equality in the world, don't we? Oh my gosh.
Right. Well, this
Oh my
was a really
gosh.
interesting conversation. I feel like we could
Really was.
chat forever and go on and
Yeah.
on and tell stories. It's so fun. I'm glad you guys joined us today. And definitely, if you feel like you could use more practice listening to group conversations, which you could, we know you could, go to allearsenglish.com/fast to sign up for these group conversations. They are amazing, you guys. You're going to love them.
Yay!
Awesome. All
And
right,
we
guys.
love making them.
Definitely.
So sign up, guys, because we
All right,
want to
we'll see you
make
guys there.
tons.
And leave us a comment here. I would love to know, what are some characteristics about your mother that you want to emulate? Or what are some things that you're trying to not be like your mom? It'd be interesting to read your comments. So leave us a comment, guys.
Good
love this
questions. All
topic.
right,
Oh,
good
awesome.
stuff.
All right. Thanks, guys.
All
This
right,
was
thanks,
really
guys.
fun. See you next
Bye.
Take
time.
care. Bye. See you next time.
Bye.
Bonus tip: get a 7 or higher with the All Ears English app, featuring real-time transcripts and vocabulary practice that will push your score higher. Plus, fun video lessons with Lindsay, Michelle, and Jessica. Download the app today at allearsenglish.com/app.